The Harrison mansion was one of the grandest houses in the city. From the outside, it looked like a palace with tall glass windows, shining marble floors, and golden lights glowing late into the night. Inside, every room was decorated with expensive paintings, polished furniture, and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. To many people, this place looked like a dream. But for the people who lived and worked inside, it was a house of silence. Mr. Harrison, the billionaire, lived there with his only daughter, Emily. He had built his fortune through years of hard work, business deals, and endless meetings. People admired him for his success. But while he had everything money could buy, he had lost something else along the way: warmth in his home. The mansion was big, but it felt empty. Emily was a quiet girl, gentle in her ways, always smiling politely when she saw her father. But deep inside, she felt a distance between them. Her father was always busy, always on calls, always planning his next big deal. He loved her, but he showed it through gifts, not time. Expensive dresses, gadgets, and toys filled her room. But what she really wanted was simpler few hours of her father's presence. The staff of the house noticed this. They saw Emily walking in the garden alone, sitting in her room for hours, or reading books by herself. Among the staff was Maria, the cleaner. She was kind, humble, and soft-spoken. Emily liked her because Maria was one of the few people who listened. Sometimes, when no one was around, Emily would share small secrets with her, and Maria would smile gently, giving comfort without judgment. But Mr. Harrison never noticed this bond. He thought he was providing everything his daughter needed. To him, the mansion was proof of love, safety, and care. Yet, behind those shiny walls, there was silence, a silence that grew heavier with each passing day. One late evening, after another long day at the office, Mr. Harrison returned home. The hall was as quiet as always, the sound of his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. He loosened his tie, feeling the weight of business still on his shoulders. As he walked past the corridor leading to his daughter's room, he paused. There was a sound, soft, broken, almost hidden. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but as he listened carefully, he realized it was the sound of someone crying. He frowned. It wasn't Emily's voice. It was older, heavier with sorrow. Slowly, he moved closer to the door. His heart beat faster with each step, confused and curious. He gently pushed the door open a little and was surprised by what he saw. Inside the room, Maria, the cleaner, was sitting on the edge of Emily's bed. Her hands were covering her face, and tears slipped through her fingers. On her lap was something what looked like a small wooden box. She was whispering words between sobs, words too soft for him to hear clearly. Mr. Harrison stood frozen. At the door, his first instinct was anger. Why was a cleaner sitting in his daughter's room? Why was she crying here, of all places? But something stopped him from speaking. The sound of her pain was so real, so raw, that he stayed quiet, listening. Maria's shoulders shook as she whispered, "I promised I would take care of this. I promised I would never let her feel alone." Her voice broke into silence again. Mr. Harrison's chest tightened. He had no idea what she meant. Why was she speaking as if she carried a secret? He wanted to step in to demand answers, but a strange fear held him back. For the first time in years, he realized he didn't fully know what was happening in his own home. In his own daughter's life, the crying continued for a few minutes, and then Maria carefully closed the wooden box, placed it under the bed, and wiped her tears. She stood, looked around the room as if making sure no one saw her, and slowly left. Mr. Harrison quickly stepped back into the shadows of the corridor, his heart pounding. He watched her walk away, her head bowed, her face still wet with tears. She didn't notice him. When the corridor was silent again, he turned back toward Emily's room. His hand touched the doorframe, and his mind filled with questions. Why was Maria crying in his daughter's room? What was inside that box? And why did her words sound like a promise connected to Emily? For a man used to having control, it was the first time he felt powerless. He had built empires, signed million-dollar deals, and made decisions that shaped industries, yet here in his own house, he was a stranger. His daughter's world was more mysterious than he had ever imagined. That night, as he stood alone in the dark hallway, Mr. Harrison realized that the mansion he had always been proud of was not a place of happiness. It was a place where secrets lived in silence. And even the people closest to his daughter carried burdens he did not understand. He took a deep breath, staring at the closed door of Emily's room. Something inside told him that his life was about to change, that the silence of the mansion had been hiding a truth that would soon break him in ways he never expected. Mr. Harrison could not sleep that night. Even in his enormous bedroom, with silk sheets and quiet air conditioning, his mind kept replaying what he had seen. The image of Maria crying in his daughter's room clung to him. Every time he closed his eyes, he could hear her broken whispers. By morning, he decided he could not ignore it. For a man who built his empire on facts and control, mysteries were dangerous. He had to know what was happening under his own roof. The mansion was bustling as usual, with maids dusting, chefs preparing breakfast, and guards stationed outside. But Mr. Harrison's eyes kept searching for Maria. He found her in the hallway, carrying a bucket and a cloth, her face pale from lack of sleep. "Maria," he said, his deep voice echoing off the marble walls. She froze instantly. "Yes, sir," she answered softly, lowering her eyes. "Come with me." His tone left no room for refusal. He led her into his private study, a grand room filled with tall shelves of books and leather chairs. Once the door was closed, the silence pressed heavy between them. Mr. Harrison leaned on his desk, crossing his arms. "I saw you last night," he said. Maria's hands tightened on the cleaning cloth she still held. "Sir, I saw you in my daughter's room. You were crying. You were holding something. Tell me the truth. What were you doing there?" Maria's eyes filled with panic. Her lips trembled as if words were trapped inside her throat. For a moment, she looked like she might run. But then she sighed, her shoulders sinking, as if a heavy weight pressed down on her. I wasn't supposed to let anyone know," she whispered. "But I can't lie to you, sir. Not anymore." Mr. Harrison's jaw tightened. "Then speak. What secret are you hiding?" Maria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and took a shaky breath. "Emily, your daughter. She used to talk to me. Not much, just little things at first. But slowly, she shared her heart. She was lonely, sir. So lonely." Mr. Harrison's chest tightened, but he stayed silent. "She told me she felt invisible in this house," Maria continued, her voice trembling. "Yes, she had everything, gifts, clothes, trips, but what she wanted most was time with you. She longed for your presence, your voice, your care. She wanted to sit with her father, not the billionaire everyone else saw." Her words stabbed him harder than any business loss ever had. He gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles white. Maria's eyes lowered. "She once told me, Maria, people think I have everything, but I have nothing if my father doesn't see me." Mr. Harrison's throat went dry. His daughter had said that, and he had never noticed. "She gave me that wooden box," Maria whispered. "She asked me to keep it safe, to protect it until she was ready. It holds her letters, her drawings, her thoughts. Last night, I opened it because I missed her. And I cried because those letters remind me of the pain she carried." Her voice broke and tears slid down her cheeks. "I promised her I would listen when no one else did. I promised her she wouldn't be alone, even if it was just me by her side. Mr. Harrison's body stiffened. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come to me sooner? Maria shook her head fiercely, because she begged me not to. She was afraid you wouldn't understand, afraid you'd get angry, or worse, brush it off. She wanted to keep her pain hidden from you. Those words crushed him. A father, blind, to his daughter's suffering, replaced by the compassion of a cleaner. He, the man who could buy anything, had failed to give the one thing his daughter needed. His heart, silence, filled the study, broken only by Maria's soft sobs. Mr. Harrison turned away, staring at the shelves of books he had never read, the trophies of his success, the meaningless gold frames. None of them mattered now. Finally, he whispered, "Show me the box." Maria's eyes widened. "Sir, show me," he repeated firmly, but his voice cracked with emotion. Maria hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Tonight, when the house is quiet, I will bring it to you. But please, sir, promise me you won't be angry at her words. Promise me you'll listen with your heart, not with your pride." Mr. Harrison closed his eyes, the weight of her request pressing against the cracks in his soul. For once, pride meant nothing. "I promise," he said softly. Maria gave a small nod, tears still clinging to her lashes. She turned to leave, her steps heavy with sorrow, but as she reached the door, Mr. Harrison spoke again. "Maria," he said. She paused. "Thank you for being there when I wasn't." His voice was rough, almost breaking. Maria didn't reply. She just lowered her head and slipped out, leaving the billionaire alone in his grand, empty study. That day, Mr. Harrison sat at his desk, staring at the window, lost in thought. For the first time in his life, his empire felt meaningless. What use was power if he couldn't protect his own child from loneliness? What use was money if it built walls instead of bridges? As the sun set, he felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Fear of what he would read in that wooden box, and hope that somehow it wasn't too late to make things right. The mansion was still quiet. But inside Mr. Harrison's heart, a storm had begun. That evening, Mr. Harrison found himself standing in front of his daughter's room again. The golden handles on the door glistened in the dim light. But to him, they looked heavy, like the weight of guilt he carried on his shoulders. All day he had been thinking about Maria's words, about the box, about Emily's loneliness. When Maria arrived at his study later that night, she carried the wooden box in her hands. It was small, simple, and old. Nothing like the expensive items that filled his mansion. Yet, as she set it gently on the desk, it felt more valuable than all his treasures. "This is hers," Maria said softly. She wanted to keep her thoughts safe. Mr. Harrison reached out slowly, almost afraid to touch it. His fingers trembled as he opened the lid. Inside were folded papers, drawings, and tiny keepsakes. He picked up the first letter and unfolded. His heart sank as he read the words written in his daughter's delicate handwriting. "Dear Diary, today Father bought me another dress. It's beautiful, but I wish instead he had sat with me for dinner. Sometimes I feel invisible. Everyone sees him, but does he ever really see me?" The words blurred as his eyes filled with tears. He set the paper down, his hand shaking, and picked up another. "Maria listened to me today. She makes me feel safe. I wish Father would talk to me the way she does. Maybe I am too childish to deserve his time. Maybe business is more important than me." Each line pierced his heart. His daughter had been crying out for him, not with her voice, but through her words, her silence, her loneliness. And he had been too blind to notice. Maria watched him quietly, her own eyes glistening. She had seen these letters before, felt their weight. But for Mr. Harrison, this was the first time. The mighty billionaire who could buy anything now sat helpless before the fragile truth of his daughter's pain. He picked up a drawing next. It was a picture of the mansion. But unlike the shining home he admired, Emily had drawn it in dull colors. The windows looked dark, and the people inside were tiny shadows. Underneath, she had written, "Big house, small hearts." Mr. Harrison pressed the paper to his chest, his body trembling. The silence of the room was broken only by his ragged breathing. She thought I didn't care," he whispered, his voice breaking. Maria stepped closer. She never doubted. "Your love, sir. She only wished you showed it in ways she could feel. Children don't need riches, they need presence. She missed you." The words hit him like thunder. He leaned back in his chair, covering his face with his hands. Memories flooded his mind: business trips, board meetings, late nights at the office. All the times he told Emily, "I'll be home soon," but never was. All the birthdays celebrated with gifts instead of his company. All the times he saw her smile and believed she was fine, never looking deeper. He realized now that his success had come at a terrible cost. He had built empires, but lost moments. He had given her riches, but denied her the one thing she longed for: his time. With trembling hands, he opened another letter. This one was shorter, but more painful than the rest. "Sometimes I wonder if I disappeared, would Father even notice? Would he cry for me? Or would he just buy another gift to ease his guilt? I want to believe he loves me, but I don't always feel it." A sob escaped his chest. He couldn't hold it anymore. His tears fell onto the paper, staining the ink. For the first time in many years, the powerful billionaire cried openly. Broken by the truth of his own failure, Maria placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "She loved you, sir. Even in her sadness, she loved you. She always talked about you with pride. She only wished you would see her, not as an extension of your success, but as your little girl." Mr. Harrison clutched the box to his chest like it was his last lifeline. "I failed her," he whispered. "I failed as a father." "No," Maria said softly. "You still have time. She's not gone. She's still here, waiting. It's not too late." Her words sparked a fragile hope in him. For years, he had believed money could solve every problem. Now, he realized the truth: it could not buy back the moments he lost. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to give her what she needed now. He looked at Maria, his eyes raw with emotion. "Thank you," he said hoarsely, "for being there when I wasn't, for giving her the comfort I should have given." Maria lowered her head humbly. "I only did what any human should do, sir. Sometimes the smallest kindness means the world." That night, when Maria left the study, Mr. Harrison remained alone with the wooden box. He read every letter, every note, every drawing until the early hours of the morning. With each page, he saw his daughter's hidden struggle more clearly: the silent pain behind her smile, the invisible battle she fought in the loneliness of a grand mansion. And as dawn broke, the billionaire who once thought he had everything realized he had nothing if he lost her. The next morning, the Harrison mansion was alive with its usual rhythm. The staff moved quietly through the wide halls, polishing the silver and dusting the chandeliers. To them, it was another ordinary day. But for Mr. Harrison, the world had changed overnight. His eyes were swollen from reading and crying until dawn. The wooden box still sat on his desk, its contents spread across the surface like broken pieces of his heart. Letters filled with his daughter's silent pain lay before him, and no matter how many times he read them, the guilt only grew. Heavier, he knew he could not stay silent anymore. He needed answers, needed to hear everything: the truth Maria had been holding back. He found her in the garden, bending low to water the flowers. The morning sun painted her face, and though she tried to look calm, he noticed the red marks under her eyes. She had been crying too. "Maria," he said firmly. She jumped slightly, then stood up, clutching the watering can to her chest. "Sir, come with me." His voice carried no anger, but it held a weight she could not refuse. With hesitant steps, she followed him back into the mansion. They walked through the long corridors until they reached the same study where he had read the letters. The door closed with a heavy click, sealing them in dot. Mr. Harrison turned to her, his voice low but sharp. "I read everything. Every word my daughter wrote. I know she confided in you, but I want to know more. Tell me, why did she hide her struggles from me? Why did she turn to you instead of her own father?" Maria's hands trembled around the watering can. She lowered it to the floor, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because she was afraid." "Afraid?" Brows furrowed. "Afraid of what? Of me?" Maria hesitated, then nodded slowly. "She loved you deeply, sir, but she believed your world was too big for her small feelings. She thought you would not understand her loneliness. She feared you would dismiss her sadness as childish." Mr. Harrison's chest tightened. Childish. She thought her pain was too small for me. Maria looked into his eyes for the first time. Yes, she admired you so much that she didn't want to disappoint you. To her, you were larger than life. She wanted to make you proud, not burden you with her tears. So, she kept them hidden, and shared them with me instead. The billionaire turned away, pacing across the room. His polished shoes clicked against the wooden floor, each step echoing his frustration. "I was her father. It was my duty too. No, my duty to protect her." "You protected her in the way you knew," Maria said softly. "You gave her security, comfort, and all the things money could buy. But what she wanted was different. She wanted your presence, your voice, your attention. She wanted her father, not the billionaire." Her words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Mr. Harrison stopped, his shoulders slumping. For once, he felt like a man stripped of all power. "Why didn't you tell me earlier, Maria? Why wait until now?" Tears welled in her eyes again. "'Cause she made me promise. She begged me never to say a word. She trusted me with her secrets, and I couldn't betray her. Every day I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't break her trust. Last night when you saw me crying, it was because her words still echo in my heart. I couldn't carry the weight anymore." Mr. Harrison sank into the chair behind his desk. His hands covered his face, his body trembling. She thought, "I wouldn't care." She thought I would be angry. But the truth is, I would have given everything just to hear her. Maria stepped closer, her voice trembling with honesty. "Sometimes love isn't about giving more, it's about giving differently." She didn't need another dress or gadget. She needed you to sit beside her, to listen, to tell her she mattered. That's all she ever wanted. Her words cut through him like a knife. He remembered the nights he chose board meetings over bedtime stories, the weekends spent on flights instead of walks in the park. He had convinced himself that providing wealth was enough. But now, he saw it for what it was, an excuse. His eyes lifted to Maria and you. "You gave her what I could not." Maria shook her head quickly. "No, sir, I only listened. Anyone could have done what I did. But she needed you most of all." For the first time, Mr. Harrison's pride broke completely. The walls he had built around himself crumbled. He leaned forward, his voice cracking. "Tell me everything, Maria. Every word she told you. I need to know. I need to understand her, even if it's too late." Maria closed her eyes, taking a shaky breath. When she opened them, her gaze was steady. "If you truly want to know, then prepare yourself. Because the truth is both beautiful and painful. Your daughter loved you with all her heart, but she also felt abandoned by you. She believed you would never notice her pain. She lived with hope, but also with fear. Her words pierced him deeper than any accusation. The room grew unbearably quiet, and for a long moment, Mr. Harrison couldn't speak. He only sat there, broken, his face buried in his hands. Maria, watching him, felt her own tears fall. She wished she could take away his pain, but the truth had to be faced. Sometimes healing began only after the deepest wounds were revealed. Finally, Mr. Harrison lifted his head, his eyes red and raw. "I don't care how much it hurts. I need to know. Every word, every secret she gave you, I want to hear it all." Maria nodded slowly, her heart heavy with the burden of truth. "Then I will tell you. But once I do, sir, nothing in your life will ever be the same again." The air inside the study grew heavy, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Mr. Harrison sat in silence, his hands clenched together, waiting for Maria to speak. His heart beat so fast it felt like a hammer in his chest. He had asked for the truth, but now he wasn't sure if he was ready to hear it. Maria stood before him, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the hem of her apron. She had carried these secrets for so long that sharing them now felt like ripping open an old wound. Still, she looked at him with steady eyes. "Sir," she whispered, her voice soft but clear. "Your daughter. She was lonely in this big house. She had everything money could buy, but she didn't have the one thing she longed for most. She wanted your time. She wanted to laugh with you, to sit at the table and share stories, to walk with you in the garden. But too often you were away in meetings, at dinners, in places where she could not follow. And so, she began to write me letters even when I was in the next room. She poured her heart onto the paper because she was too afraid to tell you face to face." Mr. Harrison's jaw tightened. His hands trembled as he ran them over his face. He wanted to interrupt, to defend himself, to say that he worked so hard because of her, but his throat closed around the words. Deep inside, he knew Maria was right. "She wrote," Maria continued, her voice breaking, "that sometimes she would stand outside your office door, holding her breath, hoping you would call her in. But when she heard you on the phone talking about business, she walked away quietly. She thought she was not important enough to disturb you." Mr. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, and pressed his hands against his mouth to keep from sobbing. Maria reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hands shook as she placed it gently on the desk. This was the last letter she wrote. She gave it to me, but she never had the courage to give it to you. His fingers fumbled as he picked it up. The paper was worn, the handwriting delicate, but full of emotion. His eyes blurred as he read, "Dear Papa, I hope one day you'll see me, not just as your daughter who has everything, but as a girl who needs you. Sometimes I feel invisible in this house, surrounded by people, but still. Alone, I know you love me, but I miss you, Papa. I miss the way you used to hold my hand when I was small. I miss hearing your voice tell me stories before bed. I don't want your money. I just want you. Please, if you read this, don't be angry. I only want to feel close to you again. Love, your little girl." The billionaire's body shook as the words sank into him like sharp glass. His tears dripped onto the letter, smudging the ink. "My God," he choked. "She begged for me. She begged, and I wasn't there." Maria's own tears flowed freely. She wanted to step forward, to comfort him, but she held herself back. This was his moment, his grief, and no words could soften it. For several minutes, the room was silent, except for the sound of his sobbing. The great man who once seemed untouchable was now just a father, drowning in regret. Finally, he lifted his head. His face streaked with tears, his voice broken. "Why didn't she give this to me herself? Why, Maria? If she wanted me so much, why hide behind you? Maria swallowed hard. Because she feared rejection. She told me once that if you brushed off her words, it would break her completely. She would rather keep her hope alive in secret than risk losing it by facing your silence. The words hit him harder than a bullet. He rose from his chair and staggered toward the window, gripping the frame as if it were the only thing keeping him standing. Outside, the world carried on as usual. Birds sang. The garden bloomed, but inside, his heart was collapsing. I was blind, he whispered. All the money, all the power. And I couldn't see my own child. Maria stepped closer now, her voice trembling but firm. It is not too late to honor her, sir. She may be gone, but her words remain. You can still give her what she wanted. Not your wealth, not your name, but your heart. Carry her with you. Live the way she longed for you to live. Be present, even if she is not here to see it. Harrison turned, his eyes searching hers. How do I do that, Maria? How do I fix what cannot be fixed? She placed a hand over her heart, by starting with the truth. By admitting her pain, by speaking her name with love, by never forgetting the little girl who only wanted her father. That is how you honor her. That is how you heal. The billionaire sank back into his chair, holding the letter against his chest as if it were the most precious jewel in his empire. His sobs quieted, replaced by a heavy silence of reflection. Maria stood in the corner, wiping her tears, her own heart breaking for both father and daughter. For years she had carried the weight of those letters, but now the truth was free. And though it tore open wounds, it also planted the first seeds of healing. As the clock ticked softly on the wall, Mr. Harrison whispered through his tears, I failed her, but I will not fail her memory. And in that quiet promise, the beginning of redemption was born. The days after reading his daughter's final letter passed like a blur for Mr. Harrison. The once lively mansion felt colder and emptier than ever. The halls, though filled with priceless paintings and shining marble floors, seemed hollow without the echo of his daughter's laughter. He wandered from room to room, clutching the letter to his chest as if it were the only thing keeping him alive. Servants whispered as he passed. The billionaire who once walked with pride and command now moved with shoulders bent, his face pale, his eyes swollen from sleepless nights. He barely spoke to anyone, and when he did, his voice was soft, broken, as though every word cost him strength. That night, he sat in his daughter's room. The curtains were still drawn the way she had left them, her books still stacked neatly on the bedside table, her favorite doll resting on the pillow. He sat on her bed, sometimes stroking the doll's hair, sometimes whispering her name as if she might suddenly answer. Maria often found him there, but she never disturbed him. She would stand quietly at the doorway, her own heart aching at the sight of the man who once seemed unshakable, now reduced to a grieving father. She knew his pain had no easy cure. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of red and gold, Maria gathered her courage and entered the room. Sir, she said softly, you have not eaten all day. He didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the small desk where his daughter once sat to write her letters. How could I eat when she was hungry for love and I never fed her heart? He whispered. Maria's throat tightened. She wanted to remind him that guilt could not bring her back, but she also understood that he needed to feel this pain. It was part of his journey. Still, she stepped closer. She knew you loved her. Even in her letters, she wrote it. She only wished to feel you near. His hands clenched into fists. I would give everything, every dollar, every house, every company just to sit with her one more time. Just to hold her hand and tell her she was my world. But I cannot. She is gone. And I am left with this emptiness. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the ticking of the small clock on the nightstand. Finally, Maria said, "Perhaps she is gone from this world, but she is not gone from you. She lives here." She touched her chest gently. And here, she pointed to his heart. For the first time, Mr. Harrison lifted his gaze to meet hers. His eyes were red, but behind them was a flicker of something more, something fragile but alive. "Do you truly believe that?" he asked. "I do," Maria said firmly. "Your grief shows how deeply you loved her, even if you failed to show it in the way she needed. Love does not end with death. It only changes shape. She is still with you, in every breath, in every memory, in every choice you make from now on." Her words seemed to pierce through the fog of despair that had clouded his mind. He nodded slowly, as though clinging to her belief.